CNN Philippines Hour in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Latest on technology. We'll talk about the latest gadgets.
Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. EX General Santos. EX General Santos. Una sa balita. Musika o kalingawan. Mas tulong pinalakas. Radyo.
This is CNN Philippines.
I, Maria Duterte, having been appointed in the position of chair.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, President Duterte orders the arrest of unvaccinated people who insist on leaving their homes despite his directive. We get the side of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines on the matter. The mid-alert level will be expanded to cover more areas with new COVID cases surging to new highs by the day, including more than 21,000 today. And water concessionaires in Metro Manila urge customers to prepare for lower pressure as the level of Angat Dam dips. Malacanang mobilizes local government units to make sure mobility of the unvaccinated is limited in the wake of rising COVID-19 cases. In his address to the nation last night, the president announced drastic measures against those who will refuse to cooperate. The full story from Trisha Terada.
President Rodrigo Duterte directs barangay chairmen to restrain unvaccinated people from going out and arrest those who refuse to stay at home. The chief executive says barangay captains can also delegate authority to civilians.
I'm now giving orders to the barangay captain to look for those persons who are not vaccinated and just would request them or order them, if you may, to stay put. And if he refuses, arrest the recalcitrant persons.
Pag unvaccinated, ay huwag munang lumabas. Kikita po natin sa datos na yung mga unvaccinated po, pag nahawa po ng COVID, ay napupunta sa malubhang kalagayan, nagiging severe at critical.
Mr. Duterte says as president, he has to make such directives because he is responsible for the safety and well-being of all Filipinos. Amid the rapid rise in COVID-19 cases, the interagency task force allowed hospitals to shorten the quarantine period for fully vaccinated healthcare workers to 5 days, mainly to meet the healthcare system demand. Apart from this, authorities are already allowing home isolation for those without symptoms, mild and moderate COVID-19 cases, and even close contacts of suspect, probable or confirmed cases if they have enough space for quarantine.
Pwede po silang alagaan sa bahay para hindi po mapuno ang ospital. Preserve natin yung hospitals for the severe and critical cases and for other cases na non-COVID na nangangailangan ng hospitalization.
Previously, the government highly encouraged isolation and quarantine facilities. Authorities are concerned that isolation facilities may be filled up fast, so home care is now encouraged. The government is also appealing to the public to stop hoarding paracetamol or analgesics and other over-the-counter drugs. Trade Secretary Mon Lopez assures the public there is no shortage of these drugs. He adds some pharmacies have ran out of stocks due to logistical problems. In the meantime, President Duterte has directed the police to arrest and detain black market sellers.
Any transactions of black marketing of these essential medicines should be arrested. Walang exception.
The chief executive also asked the Justice Department to assign fiscals to conduct the summary investigation for a quick decision against black market sellers. He also reminds the public to strictly adhere to health protocols and follow authorities. Trisha Trada, CNN Philippines.
A group is now alarmed over the president's directive. The People's Development and Governance says further restricting the movement of unvaccinated and partially vaccinated people is discriminatory because even the vaccinated may also be carriers of the virus. The group suggests free COVID-19 testing for all and improving medical capacity as a long-term goal. But the Health Department insists on risk-based and not mass testing because of limited resources. In the meantime, the palace says Mr. Duterte has taken his Sinopharm booster, the same brand he received for his primary series. The country is eyeing the vaccination of children 5 to 11 years old early next month. The Health Department says the initial delivery of Pfizer vaccines for the age group is possible by the end of January until first week of February. DOH says the vaccine cluster is asking the manufacturer if deliveries can be made earlier. Pfizer initially committed to send the doses by the first quarter. The Food and Drug Administration hopes to put an end to the black market sale of remdesivir, a drug to treat severe COVID-19, as it greenlights its commercial rollout in drugstores. The FDA announces it has issued a certificate of product registration for remdesivir on December 27. This means it can now be supplied and made available in drugstores with doctor's prescription. COVID-19 cases today topped 20,000 for the first time since September 26 last year. The positivity rate soars to a new record high of 40%, with active cases above 77,000. The death toll climbs to over 51,000, brought about by 129 new fatalities. 973 others recover from the infection. 10 testing laboratories did not submit reports. More areas will be placed under Alert Level 3 beginning January 9. The list includes Baguio City, Dagupan City, Santiago City, Cagayan, Angeles City, Bataan, Olongapo City, Pampanga, Zambales, Batangas, Lucena City, Naga City, Iloilo City, and Lapu-Lapu City. Metro Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Rizal, and Laguna were initially placed under Alert Level 3, which will take effect until January 15th. The Philippine National Police says it is now preparing for a possible Alert Level 4 scenario. Vaccination cards now required to ensure the smooth transit of travelers, especially in high-risk areas for COVID-19. Stanley Gahete filed this report.
It is expected by police officers manning the various border points of places under Alert Level 3. Now that they are tasked to check the vaccination cards of travelers to control the spread of the virus. For those who can't present any vaccine proof, they will be prohibited to pass through. This is put in effect in the boundaries of Maykawayan City, Bulacan, and Valenzuela City.
Lumalagpas ka sa boundary ng Bulacan nang wala kang vaccination card.
Ngayon lang po, sir. Kasi
pero bakunado ka?
Opo, sir. Kasi nasa...
May proof ka ba na nabaksinan ka na? Picture or kahit anong proof?
Wala.
Kasi ini-implement na po natin ngayon na pag wala pong vaccine, hindi po makakadaan po dito sa boundary ng...
These two were barred from entering Bulacan.
Naghahanap ako ng gamot ng Biogesic, kaya napunta ako rito. Hindi ko po nadala yung vaccinated ko. Pero vaccinated po ako, nakabaksin po ako, full vaccine po ako.
Okay lang, sir. Ano ako? Abala rin. Abala ka rin. Hindi sa dala vaccine card ko, sir.
The Philippine National Police reminds motorists and commuters to bring their vaccination card, which is required upon entry through the border points. The LGUs have instructed police personnel to ask inbound travelers of proof vaccination after Metro Manila mayors unanimously passed a resolution to restrict the movement of unvaccinated persons. PNP says non-essential travels are prohibited. Even children are not allowed to go out, especially if they haven't been inoculated.
This is not to make things hard for us, but to make sure that the public health and the public safety of the bigger majority na papangalagaan.
There are around 800 quarantine control points in areas under Alert Level 3. 34 of these checkpoints can be found in Metro Manila, according to PNP. Over 6,000 officers were deployed, and it has also been observed that the implementation of this policy caused traffic congestion. But authorities reiterate it has to be done to curb the spread of the virus.
It's not the same challenges that we had in 2020, in 2021, but our response is the same, keeping everybody safe.
Meanwhile, different establishments such as restaurants and other businesses also remind guests to always bring their vaccination card for everyone's safety. The PNP will deploy more personnel if needed. Stanley Gaete, CNN Philippines.
The Health Department defends the border control measures imposed by the government to cut COVID-19 transmission. More officials are catching the coronavirus. Armed Forces Chief General Andres Centino tested positive. He is in an isolation facility inside Camp Aguinaldo, the Armed Forces headquarters in Quezon City. The AFP spokesperson says Centino remains in full command of the armed forces. Earlier this week, Philippine National Police Chief General Jonard Carlos also caught the virus. Two senators also contracted COVID-19. Senator Ping Lacson, who is gunning for the presidency, says he experienced sore throat, fever, and colds after he was exposed to his son earlier this week. The senator complained of delays in receiving the result of the test he took on Tuesday, prompting his family to undergo another one. Re-electionist Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also testing positive for the virus. Gatchalian says he is experiencing mild symptoms. The Senate will be closed beginning Monday until the 16th as 46 of its employees are COVID positive and 175 more are under quarantine. Premises will be disinfected this Saturday and the next before work resumes on the 17th. The House of Representatives, meanwhile, is extending its lockdown until the 16th amid the surge in cases. Only 20% of the staff in each office in the House will be allowed to report for work when sessions resume on the 17th. The government is asking manufacturers of at-home antigen test kits to apply for special certification from the Food and Drug Administration. The Health Department earlier allowed self-administered antigen tests as laboratories are getting swamped and their health workers also getting sick, causing delays in the release of results. But for now, the DOH reminds everyone at-home kits have yet to be approved, and these differ from tests used by professionals. The agency is set to issue final guidelines on Monday.
Kapag mali po ang pagkuha ng swab, malamang magiging mali rin ang resulta nyo at ito ay pwedeng magbigay ng false sense of security. Maari pong lumabas na negatibo kayo, ngunit ang totoo, positibo po pala kayo, ay nakalabas na kayo at nakapanghawa ng ibang tao.
When asked why the government is pushing for at-home antigen tests only now, Malacanang says the FDA did not receive applications from makers or suppliers. Up next on Newsnight, presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos fails to show up at the PO body's hearing on disqualification petitions against him. And residents in Metro Manila and some nearby provinces may experience lower water pressure in the coming days. Find out why when we return. Stay tuned.
ko conquering the universe was the ultimate. But there's more. Dahil tinawag ko ako ng Panginoon for a major, major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako fourth runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Sa umagat sa gabi sa bawat minutong lumilipas, hinahanap-hanap kita, hanap-hanapin ka, sabik sa'yo.
Former Senator Bongbong Marcos was a no-show at the Comlec's historic airing or live streaming of the pre-conference for petitions challenging his presidential bid. The proceedings began an hour and a half late because of his absence, despite the
virtually. Marcos is currently in quarantine after being exposed to staff who tested positive for COVID-19. His camp was able to present a medical certificate in the last minutes of the proceedings. The document said Marcos came down with fever, body pains, and a sore throat.
Where is Senator Marcos Jr.?
He is not feeling well and he cannot join in today's video conference.
He is sick. Why don't you ask your client to go on Zoom? Even if it's on isolation, he can have a laptop or his phone.
The preliminary conference tackled the petitions filed by Akbayan and the campaign against the return of the Marcoses and martial law. Groups argue Marcos should not be allowed to run for public office because of his 1995 tax conviction. The two camps were given until Sunday noon to submit their final answers to the pending cases, a far cry from the Marcos camp's request of 15 days. Here's a look at how some presidential aspirants are responding to rising COVID-19 cases. Vice President Leni Robredo is appealing for more volunteers for her COVID-19 consultation program, Bayanihan iKonsulta. She says her office needs more doctors and non-medical personnel. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and his running mate Dr. Willie Ong visiting the capital city's vaccine storage facility to ensure there is enough supply of doses. And Senator Manny Pacquiao calling on the government to go after private hospitals that do not properly compensate their health workers. He also promises to raise health workers' salaries should he become president. Fewer Filipinos out of work last November as quarantine restrictions eased that month. That's according to the Philippine Statistics Authority, which said 3.16 million persons were unemployed during the period. The unemployment rate was at 6.5%, the lowest since the pandemic began. But underemployment figures also worsened in November. The number of individuals seeking more work hours stood at 7.62 million, a steady increase since September. The PSA attributes this to the lack of stability in the operations of some companies. Meanwhile, the labor chief says the current alert level 3 will affect as much as 200,000 employees in Metro Manila alone.
Then ibig sabihin, either mawalan sila ng trabaho temporarily o kaya mababawasan sila ng number of working hours.
Bello about to provide aid for workers affected by the tighter COVID restrictions. Let's go back to our top story. President Duterte threatening to have unvaccinated individuals who refuse to stay home arrested amid the spike in COVID-19 cases. Let's talk about the legal implications of this warning. We now go above and beyond the headlines with the president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Attorney Bert Estrada, who's joining us via Zoom. Attorney Estrada, thank you so much for being with us tonight. So, well, let's begin with this. You're not speaking yet for the IBP because you have not yet been able to meet as a group. So this is going to be your personal legal opinion, correct, sir?
That is correct, Ma'am Pia, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, let's begin with this. You raised two problems. Hindi naman problems, issues here, no, when it comes to the president's order. One is constitutional law and apprehension, the issues surrounding apprehension. Let's begin with constitutional law. What is it that we need to know about this? What is it that we need to remember?
Under our Bill of Rights and Article 3, Section 6 of our 1987 Constitution, one of the fundamental constitutional rights of every Filipino is the right to freedom to travel. According to the Constitution, neither shall the right to travel be impaired except in the interest of national security, public security, and public health. However, it also includes the provision that only in accordance with law. And so there being no law that limits persons' constitutional right to travel based on status of vaccination, then such an order is, to me, unconstitutional.
So you're saying because we don't have a law, hindi natin pwede itong gawin. So kailangan Congress needs to pass a law that will make it legal to arrest someone who is unvaccinated. Ganun ba?
That is correct.
And therefore, it impedes his right to travel.
That is correct. That's how the Constitution is framed. That only in 3 instances can the right to travel be impaired: when it concerns national security, public safety, or public health, as may be provided by law. So, yung last phrase po, klaro po na kailangan merong batas. Kahit po yung tatlong reason are present.
Kahit na sabihin ng presidente natin, the commander-in-chief, the chief executive, we cannot say his word is law. The president's word, the chief executive's word, not equal to a law. Ganun ba? Is that how we are to understand this?
Yes po. The president's word is not law. Law is enacted by Congress, the legislative body of government. They are the body that is given by the Constitution the power to legislate laws. It is not the word of the president. But we do understand his concern. But he is not the one who makes the law. He is the one who executes the law.
Right. Kaya nga executive, chief executive. However, if we push that even further, do you think it's possible for Congress to pass a law that will impede or restrict the right to travel of persons who are unvaccinated? Because there are some people who are unvaccinated because they believe certain things. No, so should you be penalized for that? In other words, I guess that will be part of the discussion on the floor, no, virtual or otherwise. Correct?
Yes, that would be a political question properly addressed to the legislative body of our government, to Congress. And if they do see a wisdom, the basis, there's a constitutional basis which says that you can pass a law to restrain the right to travel if there is, if it is for public safety and public health. But the reasonableness of such a law has to be deliberated upon, and it will be up to Congress if it passes a law or not.
Let's talk about your other issue here, yung apprehension. So what you're saying here is if the police or authorities, barangay tanod or whatever, arrest a person who is unvaccinated, who insists on leaving his or her home, then that would be tantamount to a warrantless arrest. Now, what is the problem here?
Yes, it is still in connection with the previous issue of the unconstitutionality of such order, hence an illegal order. And the problem there is that if our public officials, even our local government units, in this case, who were asked by the president to make such arrest, might be doing an illegal arrest and might expose them to criminal liability because they are committing an illegal act by arresting a person who is not committing a crime, because there is no law that makes an unvaccinated person a criminal if he or she goes out of her house.
Okay. Well, if we push that scenario even further, no, because the president was saying earlier, and I am paraphrasing, papupuntahin niya yung authorities doon sa bahay ng mga unvaccinated to request them to get vaccinated. Halimbawa, yung maabutan ng police ang unvaccinated sa bahay, napapalabas, no? And then sabihin nila, uy, magpabakuna ka naman at huwag ka nang umalis ng bahay at mag-insist yung tao na umalis ng bahay. Pwede pa ba siyang arestuhin based on, kasi di ba ang pagkaalam natin kapag in-order ka ng authorities, police, no, law enforcement to do something, and if you refuse and then you assault the person, and that's an extreme already, pwede ka nang arestuhin. Pwede ba yon? Yung basis for arresting him will be his refusal to follow your order. Pwede ba yon?
Yung request, okay naman yun eh. If the officers requests and if the people, and we hope people heed such requests so that if it's one way to curb the spike in this pandemic. However, an order would be a different thing because for it to be followed and for an arrest to be made because that order is not followed, the order has to be lawful itself. And in this case, and in the example that you have cited, there is no law that makes such an order as the basis. So, not following it would not be tantamount to a crime. So he cannot arrest the person at that point also.
Okay, dami pa palang issues dito. Anyway, and like you pointed out, and we all know, and just a reminder for our viewers tonight, warrantless arrests can only be implemented when it comes to hot pursuit, in flagrante delicto, meaning caught in the act, and yung SKP cases. Attorney Bert Estrada, IBP President. Sir, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Now, water firms urging customers to prepare as Angat Dam's water level goes lower than expected. Located in Norzagaray, Bulacan, the dam is one of Metro Manila's main water sources. Rex Remigio tells us more.
Susan Ramos is running a karinderya in Mandaluyong City for 4 years now. Her business is highly dependent on water, from cooking to washing the dishes and utensils as she prepares for lunchtime customers. But water companies are looking to reduce water pressure from faucets until January 15 due to the lower than expected water level of Angat Dam at the end of last year.
Siguro kinakabahan tayo pero ipon-ipon na lamang para hindi tayo mawawalaan ng tubig sa bahay natin.
Water concessionaires reducing water pressure aims to discourage excessive water use. Pag-asa explains the northeast monsoon or amihan has yet to dump enough rains in Angat Dam, causing its water level to go down faster than usual. The Weather Bureau also says there's low chance of rainfall in the area by the weekend. Hydrologist Ed De La Cruz, however, is expecting more monsoon rains to come within the month.
Baka lumakas yung notice natin, yung amihan. Baka yun ang pag-asa natin na kung hindi man bumagal o baka huminto yung pagbaba ng elevation na Angat.
But since weather can be unpredictable, water firms are now preparing double time, especially for summer when demand is at peak. The companies are activating deep wells and repairing more damaged pipes to add to the current supply. Concessionaires are also assuring there's still enough volume from their water treatment facilities that get supply from bodies of water other than Angat Dam. The companies believe these preparations are important even if the National Water Resources Board decides to lower the allocation for Metro Manila by January 16 due to Angat Dam's decreasing level.
Sa mga susunod na araw ay mararamdaman natin yung pagbabawas ng water pressure. So sana po ay maintindihan po ng mga customers yon.
Pero gumagawa tayo ng mga simulations, tinitignan natin, tinitimpla na natin yung water availability across our distribution network. And kung sakali mang nagbababa tayo ng pressure ngayon, siguro ito yung during off-peak hours para lang makita kung ano yung magiging scenario.
For now, water companies also assure there will be no water interruption, something that Susan doesn't want to happen.
Kung sakaling walang tubig, o di wala tayong magagawa, i-stop ang business natin.
Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
And on Newsnight, we say goodbye to a national artist for literature, F. Shonil Jose. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
The adventure starts here.
Hi, I'm Fox. I've made a new TV show.
Been bitten by the bug of curiosity. This is CNN 10. My name is Carla Zeus.
National artist for literature Francisco Shonil Jose has died, or F. Shonil Jose, as he was known. The Philippine Center of International Pen, which he founded, said Jose died at the Makati Medical Center. He was scheduled for an angioplasty procedure but never woke up. The multi-award writer was known for his novels and short stories on class struggles and colonialism. Jose was declared National Artist for Literature in 2001. He was 97. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Let's kick off today's episode with hearty dishes here in Wholesome Meals Better Life. Now, the next half hour is filled with healthy, delicious, and so easy to prepare meals for the whole family. I'm Christine Jacob Sandejas, and this program is brought to you by San Miguel Corporation. As moms, you know there's nothing more special than preparing food for your family, and that's why
many of us are constantly looking for ways to lose weight, especially after indulging during the holidays. But losing weight isn't just a one-time deal. There are many factors to consider, and rather than shedding a few pounds, it's more important to aim for your ideal healthy weight. And that number changes depending on many variables. After all, it's not one size fits all. Today in the program, we'll talk about the steps we need to take to lose weight gradually and properly. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to Med Talk Health Talk, right here on CNN Philippines. Many Filipinos use the holidays as an excuse to let loose and indulge. But once the year rolls in and their clothes feel a little tighter, many also look for fast and easy ways to lose weight. And the cycle continues year after year. But it doesn't have to be that way. Here to help us make sure we don't end up doing the same thing, with us is Dr. Rosario Montserrat Acosta, who's an occupational medicine specialist, and she is from the Center for Executive Health of the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also with us is Josh Manuharan, who is a physiotherapist from the Philippine Physical Therapy Association and the founder of Kakayanan.org. Now, I'll start the discussion with Dr. Monet. Doctora, let's talk about the health risks because we want to start with the more common ones. Ang kadalasan dyan is high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. Let's talk about that.
With putting on weight comes the gradual onset of its complications. And primary of which is type 2 diabetes. Magkakasama na yan, no? Magpipinsa na yan sila. Then high cholesterol comes in, and then hypertension comes in, and then cardiovascular disease comes in.
Now, I'll ask Josh, how about naman yung mga excessive weight problems when it comes to things like joint pains, tendinitis, or other mobility problems that our viewers might experience kapag excessive ang weight nila?
With regular activities, our body is already bearing with our weight. No? So if we put on more weight, then definitely our joints, our muscles are going to work harder. So the more weight we put in, the more challenging it is for our body. However, I just want to put things in perspective. Most of the time, we think about weight as the end goal of health and well-being. But actually, weight is the sum of all the decisions that we make in a day-to-day basis. We should look at it as that way. It's not just a number that defines us. It's something that tells us about decisions that we have to make.
Dr. Monette, ano ba ang basehan ng ideal weight ng isang tao?
There's a formula for that, no? There's BMI, and then it's based on your height and your weight. And deal first with the losing weight, no? Because it's not just a simple problem, no? It's not just a matter of calories and crunching the numbers, no? There's more to it. Kasi if a person comes to you and says, I want to lose weight.
Josh, very common ang paggamit ng BMI. What exactly is BMI? It's a very common metric used in order to assess whether someone falls into the right realm. But as Dr. Monette mentioned, is this still current? Is this still accurate? Or are there other parameters that our viewers will be able to take advantage of?
BMI stands for Body Mass Index. This kind of method was developed 200 years ago to simplify or to get a snapshot of people's level of fitness. BMI is not the only indicator of health and well-being at this day and time. No? So it's something that can give you a summary of where someone is at. But there's, like you said, there's a lot of different factors there. If I'm not mistaken, it's computed as kilograms over meters squared. So it's your weight and height proportion. But, you know, and then it sums up into a number. It ends into a number. So it's usually if you range from about 18 to 25 within the BMI scale, you're considered healthy. However, we should now veer away from that. And there is such a thing now as body composition. This is now what we should be referring to more than your weight and more than your BMI. Because your body composition tells you what your body is composed of. If you have too much fat, or do you have enough muscle? Do you have enough water? Are your bones dense enough? And these factors make up your total body weight.
Marami nagtatanong, I'm overweight right now. I want to lose as much pounds as I can in as quick a time as possible. Is that the right mindset?
There's no quick fix to a problem that you've developed, accumulated over a long period of time. And there are more detrimental effects of these quick fixes. It's really initially siguro when you start, you lose the pounds, but that's not fat, you know? So it's really a gradual loss.
Now, Josh, pag wala naman palang quick fix, there's no magic bullet in order to become healthy in a short amount of time, what's a good motivation for those people who are having trouble to even take that first step in being healthy?
I think the quickest answer to that is you need to find your own motivation, because that will be your guiding star. You know, it's not an easy journey. To change anything in your life is not easy at all. But finding your North Star, you know, finding your reason why you're embarking on that challenge is very, very much important. So some goals that we can think of are either fat loss, to build muscle, to just, you know, improve on your general well-being and longevity, and to be good at your sport or any activity.
And for most people, losing weight is not easy. It can be frustrating to start, and staying with the program are huge challenges. But what's most important is that you do it safely. When we return, a step-by-step guide on helping you get on the road to weight loss and better health. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to Med Talk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. After gaining a few extra kilos, most of us resort to crash diets or intense programs to lose the excess weight. While these do produce impressive initial results, studies show that these effects usually disappear after a year or even less. The key to successful weight loss is making changes in your diet that are realistic, coupled, of course, with an exercise regimen. Now, I think the key word here is realistic. We need to set realistic goals when aiming to shed some weight. Josh, can you tell us more about this, about having these realistic goals?
I think the most important, in setting a realistic goal, we need to tune into ourselves more than anything else, right? We need to understand what activities we like doing, why we want to be fit, what are accessible for us. Do we have access to a gym? Do we have access to a park? Do we want to run, or a pool? So we need to know what elements that we have personally to set what's realistic for us.
Now, once you've determined your goals, your realistic goals, the next step is taking a closer look at some of your eating habits. Dr. Monet, walk us through some of the healthier eating habits that our viewers and Filipinos should be able to do.
One, start getting them on regular meals, like eat 4 times a day, because a lot of them, they skip meals. They have a lot of preconceived notions of how to lose weight, and it's really off the charts of how to do it. So one is to get them back to eating and try to get them to eat healthy food.
Right now, I'd like to ask Josh, aside from eating healthy, they have to exercise as well, get that good amount of physical movement in it. But when it comes to someone who hasn't exercised actually for the most part of their life, what do you suggest? Is it okay to go jogging with their friends at the same pace of someone who's been running for their whole life?
A lot of people do not know where to begin. And which is why it's great to, one of the things that we've learned over the last 2 years is that there's nothing else more important than our health and well-being, right? So if you remember, earlier on we discussed about motivation and setting realistic goals. We need to know who we are. We need to know our level. We need to accept that, okay, I'm starting. I'm just starting for now, and I wouldn't compare myself to a triathlete. We have to stick to one program for at least 4 weeks. Because it takes 4 weeks for our bodies to change, right? So we can't just, let's say, go on a yoga program for 3 days and it's like, oh, my hamstrings are still tight. No, it's not for me. Or if I wouldn't go on running and then after a week it's like, oh, I'm still not happy with what I see in the mirror. It takes 4 weeks to see changes in our body.
So a lot of the movement exercises that you mentioned sometimes require outdoor activities. So sometimes the excuse is, kailangan ko bumili ng exercise equipment, kailangan ko bumili ng bagong shoes, kailangan ko maging member sa isang gym to start my fitness journey. Can simple things, just as walking, be a good and viable start?
I would say walking is a good start. However, if you can see, the world has turned into a very static and sedentary life. The world has become very static, and we consider walking as exercise nowadays, right? But in the way our bodies are made, we don't have this much muscle and this much number of bones just to sit down and wait for things to happen. We are designed to walk. We are designed to move. So definitely we should start walking a little bit more. It's a starting point. However, if we have bigger goals like to lose more fat or to build more muscle, walking wouldn't be enough. But it's a good starting point.
We also just suggest adding some weight training to anyone's routine. Maybe not in the beginning, but later on as your body gets used to the increase in activity, because it can help you build strength as well as promote muscle growth. But what's most important is that you choose an exercise that you enjoy doing. This makes it more likely that you'll stick to it for the long term. What is your advice? How should our viewers approach this? What signs do they need to watch out for that could tell them that they need to see a doctor?
Having difficulty losing weight over a period of time, you feel symptoms like you're getting tired, you're always sad, then maybe you have a medical condition, maybe you should see a doctor, maybe you have hypothyroidism. This is one of the common findings for people, especially women at a certain age. And then if you're a woman and you've been before, and then in your teenage years, you all of a sudden gained weight, and maybe it's good for you to check with an OBGYN.
Losing weight is only half the battle. The real challenge is keeping it off for good. When we return, most common pitfalls when losing weight. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Now, I'd like to ask Josh, what are some of the common pitfalls kaya of people when it comes to trying to lose weight?
A lot of people get frustrated when they don't lose weight or lose fat or look in a certain way at a time frame that they set for themselves, right? But it's natural. When we change something in our lifestyle, it takes time. There's an upward spiral of lifestyle changes. So it's very common for us to think, for example, okay, am I going to start my fitness journey? Maybe not. And then you kind of start something, you see the results, and then you become happy, and then you go back again, slide back. It's normal.
When it comes to information about someone's health, about eating right, the correct exercises that won't induce the risk for injury, what type of information should our viewers watch out for? Where can they search?
The challenge nowadays with the overabundance of information is filtering which information is right and not right. So it's very challenging. One tip one tip that I can share to see which website to refer to. In the scientific community, when we report researches, we can only cite websites that end in .edu or .org. Those are the first things that we should look into, right? Because that's just a quick reference on what websites am I going to refer to.
What's a good way for people to enjoy the exercise or that added movement that they're doing? Is it good to follow that your heart rate has to be really high in order to lose fat effectively?
There is what we call our maximum heart rate, right? So maximum heart rate, there's a little bit of formula here. It's 220 minus your age. That's not very important. What's more important is your target heart rate. So your target heart rate is about 50 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. Now, this is what the watches are for. The smartwatches, these devices that we're using. We don't have to think or calculate. They just prompt us that, you're on your zone. You're on the right zone. So why do we have to take into consideration your target heart rate? Because this indicates that our body is being challenged at a certain level. And there is a safe zone. 50 to 85% of your target heart rate or of your maximum heart rate is okay because your body can still handle it.
Is there anything you would like to add, Dr. Monette, when it comes to starting that journey safely and effectively for our viewers?
Just start eating healthy 3 times a day, vegetable, fruit, the right proteins, the right fat. Start moving because that's what your body's made for. And you'll see, your body will start looking for more.
And Josh, before we go, do you have any parting advice for our viewers when it comes to their journey towards a healthier lifestyle?
When we start on our fitness journey, we have to really tune into a goal that is important for us. That's not defined by anything else external. We don't need the most, advanced watch, the most expensive shoes, beautiful clothes and all that. Those are just extra. Start with what you have. If you have a space that your body can fit inside your house, that's fine. You don't have to have a gym membership, an expensive one. Although you might need a little bit of guidance. This is going to be a challenging journey, but you're not going to regret it if you're at a certain age and you look back at the decisions you've made, And you said, I've made right choices for myself.
With that, I'd like to thank occupational medicine specialist and clinical nutritionist Dr. Rosario Acosta and physiotherapist Josh Manoharan for sharing with us your insights. Maraming salamat sa inyo. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time.